Hereby call on June 23rd, 2025, meeting of the Town of Hanson Planning Board to order at 6:30 p.m. I'd also like to announce for all those in attendance that this meeting is being recorded for distribution on River Hanson Community Access. Playback times and other related information on this recording can be found at WHCA TV. Tonight's meeting is being held here at the Town of Hanson, 542 Liberty Street in the Select Board Meeting Room of Hanson, Mass. With that call to order, we have a full board in attendance this evening with our newly elected member, Justin. Thank you very much for putting your name in the hat and welcome aboard.
Thanks.
As well as our town planner office minus our administrative assistant. The first item of business on tonight's agenda is our board reorganization. So board reorg in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81A, and Article 2-1, Section 1A of the Hanson General Bylaws. It's an annual reorganization that happens after our town select board reorgs. Every board subsequently after that must also reorg as well. And with that, I will hand it over to the town planner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you stated, this is the first time the planning board is meeting after the general election. So now the board has to select a chair, vice chair, and clerk for the next year. So with that, I am seeking nomination requests, nominations for the position of chairman for the next year.
I would nominate Joe Campbell.
So we have Joe Campbell nominated as the chair. That would be a motion by Mr. Cohen, seconded by Mr. Ellis. Any discussion? So, well, we gotta do the chair first. So any discussion on the position of the chair? Okay, so I'm gonna take a roll call vote. Mr. Beninato?
Aye.
Mr. Ellis?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell? Cohen?
Aye.
Mr. Robertson?
Aye.
That's a 5-0 vote. Mr. Joe Campbell is the chair for the next year. And with that, I turn the meeting back to you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thanks for the support, and hopefully I can carry the town planning board ahead for this next 365 days after tonight's meeting, listening to the constituents and this board as well as our town planner. We have next on our agenda the position of a vice chair for the Town of Hanson Planning Board. Is there a motion for vice chair?
I'm going to nominate Kevin.
Motion's been made by Mr. Beninato and seconded by Mr. Ellis in regards to vice chair. Kevin Cohen. Questions on the form motion? For the roll call vote. Mr. Beninato.
Aye.
Mr. Ellis. I have an aye. Vote.
Aye.
5-0. And are we going to do clerk again this year? We're going to have it vote.
I do have a position for clerk.
We have a nomination for the regional planning board clerk, which technically, or generally, historically, it's always gone to the person.
New reason like So I nominate Justin. I'll second that.
There's a nomination for Justin and a second, so I'll take Paul's and Ellis for nomination. And any discussion in regards to that nomination? Roll call vote. Mr. Beninato?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Perfect. Excellent. 5-0. So we have our sitting board.
Right.
Moving on the agenda, we have our subcommittee appointments. So the subcommittees that we have that we're going to appoint to, and I'll go over the agenda that we have, or the consent agenda we have before. So myself on open space, Mr. Ellis on Parks and Recreation Committee, Mr. Cohen on Economic Development, Mr. Beninato on Drainage, and then there's now an open seat for a CPC appointment. All of these are termed for 1 year. What says the board?
Motion for which have shown there, and want to find somebody to fill the position.
Is there a volunteer? So does that, with his volunteer, does that also amend your motion?
In the motion, yes.
Great. Is there a second? Mr. seconds that. So Mr. Ellis has a motion on the floor for a consent for myself to open space, Mr. Ellis to Parks and Rec, Mr. Cohen to Economic Development, Mr. Rouse to CPC Committee, and Mr. Beninato for Drainage. Is there any discussion in regards to that motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, Mr. Beninato.
Aye.
Mr. Ellis. An aye.
Aye.
Mr. Cohen.
Aye.
5-0. What we need to do is make sure that you stop off at the town clerk between now and perhaps by the next meeting and swear into those subjects.
Mr.
Just
Chair.
the point of order. We need to be at state, where we have to do the,
Oh, overview.
yeah,
Yeah.
they have to do.
Yeah, we have to do that, yeah. So, did you do that already, the OML point? You'll get a notice from the town clerk's office or possibly the
Okay.
town planner's office about
Okay.
taking that.
It's online.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, there's two quick items that are part of this process.
Town planner.
One is a form here to send to the land court and to the register of deeds
For signatures?
for signatures.
Yeah.
So this will be just the signatures of each member of the board. So please sign by your name.
Do you want black ink or do you want blue ink, Tony?
Blue ink works.
Blue ink works?
And then the second item is if the board wishes to continue to allow, as a majority, the chair to sign on behalf of the board, so endorse plans, certificates, et cetera.
Will the board?
Yeah, after we all vote. Need a motion for that?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Motion's been made by Mr. Cohen, second by Mr. the Chair. Signatures. Any discussion in regards to that motion? Again, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? 5.
So I'm going to pass around two forms. Please sign by your name. I'll get that recorded at the registry in the land court.
Everything stop. Next item of business on our agenda is the approval of the May 15th, 2025 open session meeting minutes. You'll find those in your packet.
Mr. Chair, if I may, that should say May 12th. That's an error.
Correction, May 12th. Scrivener's error, so you have a Scrivener's error, it should be May 12th, and we'll get that corrected on the next minutes for this meeting. Is there a motion in regards to those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the May 12th.
Motion's been made.
Actually, it's May 25.
Motion's been made, second by Mr. Ellis. Any discussion in regards to those minutes from May 12th? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And if you're gonna vote on that, did you read through all the minutes and do you, Tony has some people you want you to sign?
Okay.
Yeah.
We can abstain. Okay.
Who made the second on this?
Fine.
Don. Okay.
Quick and easy, right? It's 6:40. Moving on to our public hearings. The time having arrived is 6:40 PM. We are going to continue the update of the Hanson Open Space and Recreation Plan. Representatives from VHB will discuss revisions to the Hanson Open Space and Recreation Plan based community board and state input. Representative from VHB. Come on up, please. Please state your name for the record.
Julia Mintz.
Hi, do. Nice to see you guys. Welcome back down.
Thank you. So recognizing minutes, could just copy.
You have more than 5 minutes. The time is to keep the board on.
You can go to the next slide. Our update is a bit more brief today. We're nearing the end of an approximately 5-month planning process. Today, we'd like to get some updates about how the review process is addressed, follow up on a couple of discussion points that have come out of that review process and next steps. We are DHB, we're the consultant, usually in this. And so, like I said, this has been an approximately 5-month planning process. Included stakeholder interviews as well as an in-depth needs analysis. So there's been a lot of updates from the speaking broadly, included an updated analysis of each with regard to environmental resources, new engagement with stakeholders, and updating the planning horizon from a 7-year plan to a 10, which is a new So we're nearing the end of this process. I think about a month ago, we submitted the file to DCS, and we received it quicker than we were expecting. With, I would say, minimal comments, just under a dozen, largely technical comments, but as soon as we update the draft and submit it back to DC, we'll get final approval from them, turn it over to the town. So just to summarize what that means, upon implementing the conditional approval allows the town to participate in DCI. Grant award may be offered to the town. So we've worked through the majority of the comments. There's a few required report, which we're working with, and then working through the remaining, and I'll let if you're in a good.
So just a few of the items that are left on the comments, to basically go through and outline the couple of levels for the notification process worked, and then another one that any information we have on so any information that we can get on those and add it into the rate, and we can work with Tony.
It's a good question. Public shade trees mean.
And it can be every single tree, but just, yeah.
Close to speaking with the tree ward.
It's not so much a public need tree, because I don't know the exact story of this, but there's some local lore of a tree down on King, going to Hanover. There's some local lore about that tree. That's the big one that's on the field private property.
Yeah.
We'll get the answer together about it. Yeah,
That's sure what it falls on, Hanson.
Oh, Hanover, it's right. It's right by
That was
that.
done
Yeah, we figured it'd be good.
so warm. The things you gotta watch, trees and stuff. Forestry is mentioned the environment now, the regular trees aren't gonna last long, northern hemisphere. I don't know where it stands, but I know that they were talking about.
I think we need to speed it into just a more in-depth, so we didn't get.
Not so much like a botanist or a wildlife.
Yeah, more high level,
Okay.
but.
How Dutch elm came in and just wiped it out.
Yeah, because I mean, Hanson doesn't have any scenic roads as far as I know.
So regarding public process, additional detail, I know we provided areas and we talked about it. Those are the only two items.
Could you, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, could you just send me an email with that information? And that way I can, it's a good reminder for myself as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And so just leaving off, the outstanding letters of the board and then the chief officer, town administrator, those letters of support just need to be appended to detail approval from DCS. So, and we have conditional approval. I expect it to be, it shouldn't be a draft, and when we have that, and submit back to
We
DCS.
need to reach out to OCPC for the regional letter.
I'll send an email over to them. And I'll put it together, a letter for the plan.
Well, Julie and Krista, I gotta say thank you, and also to Tony on the board, that would like to thank both of you and town planner. That quick turnaround, obviously, because of the efforts that you guys have made. You guys had submitted something that was all over the place. They would have come back with all kinds of corrections. But to hear that they only had 6 questions, that's a testament to you guys, what you've done throughout this whole process. So thank you. Thank you very much. It's really good. And to hear that came back to you guys so fast, pat yourselves on the back for that. It just goes to show that they didn't receive, junk in, junk out kind of thing. They received what they were looking for, and they were able to spin that right back around. Does the board have any questions for VHB? This is a public hearing. Does anybody here in attendance have any question for VHB in regards to the open space? Town planner.
I'd like to keep the meeting open just so, once they finalize everything, we can give it to the board.
Yeah, we'll
We
have
can
one
still-
more to finalize.
Yeah, you could still do it on the official,
Yeah.
and then close the hearing and decide, and make a decision to approve.
So the tentative would be to have final approval. Yes, hello. Hi, could you state your name for the record and your address?
Sure, my name's Amy Tree, Halifax. Actually, I'm asking a question. What is the plan? So like when how is this working? So you're getting ability to have grants. What's the town give away to VHP in order to be able to do this? Like, is it in control, or is there an implementation plan that puts somebody else in control of that?
Once it's all been finalized, that's going to be given over to the open space committee, and it will be dispersed amongst all the land use boards in the town, as well as highway, all the individual, as a recommendation, as a tool for guiding us over the next few years.
Well, like, are you familiar with Complete Streets? Complete Streets gives away in the implementation plan the right to change any of the laws to the Department of Transportation, you know that?
Sure.
So it would be read this grant solidly to make sure that you're not doing that.
To
To put yourself in line for these grants, are you giving away authority to somebody other than the town? Have you read that grant in its entirety?
I'll let Tony comment there. He's on quite efficient with the complete streets as far as giving authority away. And if I'm mistaken, are you a Hanson resident?
Halifax.
Thank you very much. You're from Halifax. Tony, you have any comments in regards to giving authority away to other people because we have an open space plan?
If you have to read the grant, which I would want to do as well.
The biggest department that tends to apply for the grants for the open space is the Conservation Commission, and I haven't heard them state anything to that effect.
I just would advise you guys before you make sure that you read the whole entire grant, so there what the implementation plans are.
Are we talking about a grant, or are we talking about what's on tonight for the
What's
open
on
meeting, which is
tonight.
open space?
So you're going to get the ability to apply for certain grants by doing this, but there's also a tooth in it, like Complete Streets, by applying and implementing, you allow Massachusetts Department of Transportation any of your laws. So have you read these things to make sure that that's not happening to the town of Hanson?
Yeah, thanks for the advisement. We'll take them in advisement, and we'll deal with the town council when that time comes. Appreciate it, though.
Yeah.
So right now, it's only tentative, it will be sometime in July.
July 14th will be the next meeting.
Yeah. Does that give you guys enough time to possibly get a finalized signature? Great.
Yeah, and then, letters of support are very good.
3 weeks. Entertain a motion to continue this hearing, tentative to July 14th. Motion's been made by Mr. Ellis. Yeah, and seconded by Mr. Cohen. Any discussion in regards to that continuation? Seeing none. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We will have this tentative for 7/14. Continued until 7/14.
And we'll follow.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Moving on, the time is 6:52. We have Meadowbrook Subdivision County Road. The developer Ellis Builders and Development Corporation is applying for a modification of the definitive residential subdivision plan. The applicant is seeking a waiver of section 7.11 of the Hanson subdivision control law regarding streetlights. The applicant is proposing alternative lighting which conforms with the policies of the select board. We have represented, and for the record, our own member, Mr. Don Ellis, has no affiliation with Ellis Builders and Development Corporation. The floor is yours, gentlemen. Welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Paul Gunn. I'm a project engineer with Morris Gary Ellis.
Mr. Chair, I need you to read the public hearing notice into the record.
Want to put that in there?
Yeah, it should be in your packet. Right there.
June 6th?
Yep. It was advertised on June 5th and June 12th.
Sorry, before we get started. We did advertise the public hearing notice on Thursday, June 6th. It was posted as in the Woodland Annex and Express, Town of Hanson Planning Board, in accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 81R and Section 81U, and Section 3.11.5 of the Hanson Subdivision Control Law. You are hereby notified of the public hearing on the Meadowbrook Farm subdivision as per below. The Town of Hanson Planning Board will conduct a public hearing Monday, June 23rd, 2025, 6:45. It's actually 6:54 p.m. at the Hanson Town of Hanson Select Meeting Room, lower level 542 Liberty Street. The applicant, Ellis Builder and Development Corporation, 520 Washington Street, Pembroke, Mass. 02359, is applying for a modification of the Meadowbrook Farm definitive residential subdivision plan. Specifically, the applicant is seeking a waiver of section 7.11 of the Hanson Subdivision Control Law regarding streetlights. The applicant is proposing alternative lighting which conforms to the policies of the select board. Information may be reviewed at the office of the planning board, Hanson Town Hall, 542 Liberty Street, during normal business hours. This was also posted in the 6/12 edition as well. Welcome, John.
Yeah, so we're here tonight for the Meadowbrook Farm subdivision, which is a approved subdivision plan. Specifically, we're here to request a minor modification in order to request it to be implemented in section 7.11, both of which specifically regard to lighting. The waiver was previously informally addressed at the May 12th hearing, but the waiver specifically, the applicant seeks to request the use of 9 post lights at the end of each driveway, and there would be 23 street lights. The lights would be 4 bulb-fluted lights on granite posts being about 4.5 feet off the ground, and the lights being just over 2 feet tall. And they would be installed by each driveway, about 3 feet back from the sidewalk and outside of the way. These lights would be equipped with photostrobes to turn on automatically at dusk, supplied by power from the individual dwellings, and would be covered in covenants of the homeowners association agreement to ensure the property owners of each individual lot are the ones responsible for paying for the power, maintaining the lights, and ensuring they remain lit. I will turn it back to the board for questions.
Great. Any questions from the board? Mr. Ellis.
The side roads or the roads coming out of the subdivision, is that a street light? So you're gonna try to, are gonna ask for these type of?
So these, excuse me if I can, Mr. Ellis, that those were similar as to the ones that were approved in the subdivision plan as far as illumination and design on that. I believe we discussed the possibility of having National Grid posting a lamp on the pole at the end of, or the beginning of the entryway on Princeton. So that would be that one light at the intersection. And then the other intersection at Harvard and Princeton would have street lights as for the subdivision plan, I think we could do it where the lot lines are, and end of driveway are adjacent to the lot line. So what we were trying to do was hopefully use the lot line as our locations on that, but whereas the houses are in design, they may shift slightly because of the driveway, due to the driveway location. So the driveway may not come in exactly where it is on that plan. It may come in because we were doing a couple of entrances on the end of garages rather than on the front of garage. So they may adjust slightly, but as far as the spread is still 9 versus 5 on the same looms, and then the town doesn't have to pay for the power, which they weren't going to do anyway. So.
Tom, have you heard anything about the municipality request to move that light down to the Princeton County Road intersection?
So I do have correspondence. I do have correspondence from the deputy fire chief and the highway superintendent and the police chief. So let me read. So first from the Richard Jasmine, who's the highway superintendent. So in his opinion, there should be a light added to the pole across from the Meadowbrook entrance on County Road. That adds additional safety for the road as well as lighting to what seems to a very dark road. So he thinks that there should be a light across from the entrance.
From the curb cut from Princeton on County Road.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if we just look at this set of plans.
Like one or two poles down from that cut.
So there's a pole right across the street.
Yeah, it's got no light on it.
Right. So
the light, there is a light that's kind of like out in the middle of nowhere. It's about 2 poles down.
well, they could either move that one or put a new one on this one.
Yeah.
So
I think that was the discussion that we had at informal, was that if we could get them to.
The only thing I think that's bad about that is that this grid has been saying that they're not going to be adding anymore. So
light.
yeah, adding lights.
Okay. So the deputy fire chief, so the highway superintendent has no issue with this request for the lights, but he suggests that there be a street light on County Road across from the entrance, which would also match if you go up to Independence Way. There's also a light across. The deputy fire chief does not have an issue with this request as long as there is enough lighting so that the house or the unit numbers are visible from the street in the event of an emergency. He also agrees that there should be a light crossing entrance on County Road. The police chief said he is fine with this as long as there's a light on County Road. He didn't make a comment, and of course he's leaving as chief, so he said, we have spotlights on the cruisers for a reason.
So we'll have to address the grid again, probably through the town administrator's office.
Right.
About moving that one. There's a light that is, I would say, probably about 2 poles up from this cut. And then there's the next intersection, which is Independent. So that light in between, it would serve more purpose. So we can submit that through the town administrator's office. The last time the grid, we asked anything about street lighting, they said they're not going to add unless we wanted to start reducing more.
Okay. Now, this is also in addition to the lamp posts that will be at the end of the walkways. Most people, this is out at the lot line, you know what I mean? So it will, I'm sure there'll be quite enough illumination with all that.
Any other questions from the board?
No. So what you're saying is you're gonna add a street light in the subdivision and one out at this entrance.
Right, well, it's not as per design of the original subdivision plan, which had 5 streetlights that the town is not gonna put on. These are gonna, the way this all came to fruition was the fact that we were informed that the town is no longer throwing the switch on street lighting. And we're like, well, the street's gonna be dark and we're gonna be buying all these lights. Why don't we just make it tied to each individual customer? They're paying the electric bill on it, but this is also in addition to the walkway lamps that people will be putting at the end of their walkway, which are on the driveway, if you will, further in. But again, just quite a bit of light, so.
What I'm trying to understand is that when you come out of the subdivision, there'll be a light there to indicate that that's the end of the road.
Correct.
In the subdivision itself, one of the streets that goes off to the left,
That one,
you'll
yes.
have to have one at that end also across the street, probably where the
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Drainage.
So like right next to the basin,
Right.
so on the lot line there. That's not a problem. That's not a problem at all because,
It's like a street light, so that somebody.
right, I understand.
They can see.
I totally understand what you're saying now. Okay, yes, so that corner where the lot line comes through the basin, if you're looking at lot, I think that's lot 9.
That's not up there.
That, yeah, that where you've got your cursor there, right in that corner, right adjacent to the center line of Princeton Way. If
Right.
you put the lamp there, that would be fine.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's why I was saying, I was trying to locate them in an area that they did double duty.
It's not solar, correct?
No, they're photo strobes, so they come on with, when they sense lack of light.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any questions from the board? Tom Planning, any other comments?
Yeah, I'm just, so the board may wish to vote on this, but I still want to just continue this to the 14th to give me the opportunity to write up the COA, certificate of action for their request.
Yeah, and then we can jump to the town planner, town administrator, have her talk to Ray. Are you okay with that?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that way, and that way the board can review it and approve it.
I can make that problem go away.
Which one?
The one with the street lamp at the end of National Grid.
Well, let's see.
I'm just saying.
We've got 3 letters of support from town offices.
Sure.
Chief, highway, so that's definitely gonna give.
I understand.
So let's see what the town administrator is
Basically a phone call for me to get that thing done.
Yeah.
Just just so, if
Yeah,
it becomes a problem on your end,
Yeah.
I can solve it.
I don't see much of an issue with them moving a
Yeah,
lamp from
no, I
one
don't
pole
think it-
down.
I don't think
So,
so.
and we'll get that.
Just
done.
in the advance.
So,
Yeah.
so I would recommend that the
Yeah.
board just continue this to the
Entertain a
14th.
motion to continue the Meadowbrook subdivision, County Road, Ellis Building Development, applying for a waiver for section 7.11 till the tentative 7/14 meeting. Motion's been made by Mr. Benonato, seconded by Mr. Cohen. Any discussion in regards to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We'll see you on the 14th.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving along the agenda, Main Street pedestrian improvements. The project consists of replacing and/or constructing approximately 4,000 linear feet of
Chair.
sidewalk on Main Street.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
Smart growth. It's the smart growth.
My apologies.
Smart growth.
Next up, we have the Smart Growth 40R and 40Y. Representatives from Verdantis, thank you, I saw that. Verdantis will discuss revisions and updates based on community and planning board input. Folks from Verdantis, please.
If I may, can you make the normal disclosure? Because I tried to.
Oh, yeah, they are not a problem at all, yes, thank you for that. As we've done on previous meetings, we're going to make sure that we say again and state again tonight that the 40R and 40Y Smart Growth District are in no way tied into the state's MBTA zoning request. This is a separate, above, beyond, and completely different. And again, for the record, this is something that our town planner was working on, 40R and 40Y, long before the railroading of the MBTA zoning. And it's nice to see us getting back to this. So, folks from Verdantis, salute.
Okay,
How are you?
good, great. We're gonna go over a kind of brief summary. Actually, Tony, if you wouldn't mind going that way on the, so back to the 40R and 40Y stuff. We'll be going over the process and method that we discussed last meeting, just a reminder. We'll give a brief 40Y refresher and then talk about bylaws prepared for 40Y. We'll give a brief 40R refresher, and then go into the draft bylaw there. Then we'll show some revised draft 40R zoning dress, some comments we received previously, touch over our next steps, and then open it up for questions. So looking at the 40R and 40Y process, this is a slide from our lighting. We determined district locations only for 40R. We found no suitable sites for 40Y that were owned by the town. We're now at the current step of drafting draft bylaws and design standards for 40R and 40Y. After which, once those are completed, they'll be submitted to DHCD and EOCHL. They'll perform preliminary determinations of eligibility. The town will then formally adopt the zoning if used to, and then receive final approval by DD. And, in a quick look at the map again, so we identified locations for our prepared draft zoning maps. Our pre-meeting, we received feedback. We incorporated that into draft bylaws and design standards. And here we are again to get feedback on the draft bylaws and design standards. After which point, we'll finalize for town meeting. So a brief 40Y refresher, just in case you guys don't remember quite what that was. This is the starter home zoning overlay district. This would be comprised of starter homes, which are defined as single-family homes, and would be up to 1,850 square feet of living space, which would include a garage if needed. A starter home zoning district overlay would have to be at least 3 to 50 acres of developed land. And the minimum density for this would be 4 beds per acre. 50% of the homes created in this district would have to have 3 bedrooms, and 10% of the housing in the district required to be affordable, and under 40Y is defined as less than or equal to the area median. So to touch on the 40Y draft bylaws, the ATD, Department of Housing and Community Development, prepared a template in line with Massachusetts General Law 40Y. We modified this to reflect that the Executive Office of Housing and Local Communities is the approving department for this. They did not tweak that when they prepared the template. The template appears to be formatted mostly on the 40Y or 40R template that they provided. Getting into the bylaws that we drafted, the 40Y bylaws would be standalone to other zoning bylaws. What that means is if someone were to develop in the 40Y, we can't reference other sections in town zoning bylaw. They have to essentially be able to open up to the section. Everything they need has to be right there. We did our best to modify the design standard bylaws to comply with 40Y and incorporate as much existing zoning bylaws from the town as we could. And currently the 40Y bylaws we prepared allow for accessory dwelling units to be used. And the definition for 40Y of the ADU, it can be a maximum of 600 square feet. Maximum height we are proposing is 20 feet. That is not set by 40Y, so that can be increased or decreased. And currently we have it so that any development of ADUs would require plan approval authority prior to being developed. And I'm not going to go quite into the design standards we prepared on the 40Y, as they're very similar to 40R. The only tweak essentially were to remove mixed use, mention of commercial units, and then any mention of multifamily homes, 2 or 3 family homes. Essentially, same design standards, but trimmed down to only apply to the single family homes of the start.
And you said that there's, going back, that there's nothing that will be up.
What's that?
That nothing will comply to 40R within the town.
40Y.
40Y.
It's not necessarily that it won't comply, so 40Y open up so that you don't need eligible locations. It could be anywhere in the town. But for this only reviewed town-owned parcels. We didn't see any suitable locations that are greater than 3 acres that we would recommend 40Y. So essentially, we're preparing the bylaws so that they can be used in the future if the developer finds the site and wishes to use it. They can feel for you guys, right?
Somehow comes up with 3 acres or more.
Yeah, and little disclaimer there, it is developable land, so essentially if it's 3 acres, but there's an acre of wetlands in there, it's not developable land, so, you know, they might need 4 and 5 to make that 3 developable.
So, yeah, now we're going to read the 40R district. So 40R district, we must allow mixed use, so it's residential retail and commercial development right, and within close proximity. Residential density, a minimum of units per acre for single family above 1 units per acre for unit buildings, then up to 20 units per acre for multi-family building more units. For the 40R district, 20% of the housing has to be affordable. And then again, for the 40R district, it's not necessarily the size of the district, it's the location of it. So it has to be a highly suitable location. So identify the main street. So that's by the aid station, is a substantial transit access area in the east, same as the area of concentration. So within the 40R district, again, similar to 40Y, you have to write a bylaw ordinance that's consistent with chapter 40R. Bylaw has to establish the densities, permitted uses, affordability requirements. There's a list of things that have to be established, and then they include additional building setbacks, building height that you find in zoning. And then there, again, you know, it's established a procedure and plan submission is reviewed by the plan approval authority, so that's the planning board. And then there are design standards that are included that kind of address building and site
design and layout, and there's that smart growth focus that they want into there. And the design standards they can be very general, very specific. They just cannot reasonably impair the economic feasibility of proposed projects or any costs. So they have to be. So for the Hanson 40 bylaw, it's again a standard section. Use the DHCD template, ensure that the bylaws are template 40R. And we get that to kind of reflect more of the standards, integrate criteria into the bylaw. Then we've also included some criteria for waivers and special permits to allow some flexibility. Again, that would have to be approved. So I'm not going to go through. There was a full, very long document that was submitted, but I was just going to give you some of the overview, some of the design standards that were included. So there's kind of contextual compatibility. So we put standards for building fenestration, transparency. Site and building layouts, so we have the traditional setbacks and height requirements. We've also included things like transitional buffers and step backs. So that is basically, in lots and development, that's kind of on the edge of the 40R district. Essentially, those buildings will need to be set back further away from the lot lines, further away from the district boundary. And essentially, the height of the building will also have to kind of step back, limited to, let's say, 20, and be able to come up another 10 feet, 50 feet off the lot, what have you. So that kind of will help kind of address kind of the density from going outside of the district, and will also kind of address the street experience. We've emphasized kind of pedestrian-oriented design, so with connect sidewalks, efficient site circulation, entries, parking, open spaces, drop-offs, loading. We wanted to try to keep those minimum of 5 feet wide, and then try to emphasize those 8-foot requirements in higher traffic areas. Adding landscaping and lighting to sidewalks and pedestrian circulation, and then also an emphasis on vehicular safety, so minimizing the number of curb cuts, and then providing gradients or high-vis crosswalks. We also took a look at integrating space and landscaping. So there was a variety of open space types we've included, and we also tried to include types of access to them. So whether they're private, they're publicly oriented, or they're or they're full public spaces. Again, parking and vehicular circulation. So again, minimizing that number of curb cuts, traffic onto the street, allowing one per street. Again, moving that parking behind building and bringing the development towards the street access. And then we also included kind of special type parking. So that's compact parking, kind of street side parking, teaser parking. There's just kind of ways to, change the layout of the parking to make it friendly. Again, we included some reduced parking ratios, the idea that this is more development, people are using their car less. And we looked at kind of some industry standards, Institute of Transportation Engineers, they've done a lot of studies on parking. And then we've also looked at, again, alternative ways, shared parking. So restaurants that, restaurants where we have, mixed use potential, we're not always gonna have everybody at home at the same time. And then things like off-site parking, car sharing programs, meeting park requirements. And then in terms of utilities and stormwater management, so that's limiting. We also included, stuff free for dumpsters and mechanical to kind of hide that from the public view. So again, this is just kind of a refresher of the proposed 40R district. So the colors show the existing underlying zoning. You'll see the flexible overlay in that crosshatch. The red line delineates the limit of. So there's this map shows kind of what the developable land, substantially developed, and what we're calling non-developable. So the substantially developed land is land that is currently being used for residential to meet the existing zoning. So that is essentially what we looked at is because only single-family homes are permitted in a lot of these areas. We essentially took, it was one dwelling unit per, I believe, 30,000 in that area. Yeah. So that was our density by the underlying zoning. And then what we have is developable land. So that's basically land that is not substantially developed and is not wetland, bone, steep slopes, areas of state-owned finding, or any rare endangered species. So once you kind of take all that out, you get what's your developable land. So that was rated at 6.4 acres. And then what we determined is underutilized land is essentially land that is not being used for residential use and could feasibly be redeveloped for for mixed use under our district. And then so the existing zone units, so that's the zoning that is permitted by the underlying zoning. So that essentially that one dwelling unit per 1,000 square feet apply across the developable land and all of the existing number of housing units within the district as a whole. So the existing zoning units, we found that on the developable land, we could get 73 potential units, and within this district, there were 100. So now, if we look at 40R, 40R, has those minimum density requirements, and if we take that across all of the developable, but 8 dwelling units per acre, so that's if all of the developable land was single family, 484 units. 2 and 3 family at 12 dwelling units per acre, 126 units, and if all multifamily at 20 units per 1,209 units. Now,
Okay, I didn't bring my glasses with me, but I assume that's Main Street, right?
Yes, sir.
Where's the Ocean Spray plant?
On the bottom section. Yeah.
Okay.
On the roadways and sidewalks and stuff like that, you talked about curbing, but what type of curbing are you planning on using?
I believe we referenced concrete, asphalt. Not sure if we allowed, definitely no, concrete was one of those.
Those roads, the only thing that's gonna hold up is granite. You don't have stuff like Benton come back on the sidewalk and years. I've seen it. They're too lazy to find a place and then they'll just park on the sidewalk.
We'll definitely check what we have there, and if it's not granite, we'll try to switch it up.
Works pretty good.
So these densities we provided are not, they're essentially what state has developable land.
Their numbers.
Yeah, it's their numbers. It's not, we're not saying that all of this is going to be developed in units. This is essentially applying the density across what is actually developed, will completely depend. But so if we look at that, so we take all of kind of the multifamily and we subtract all the potential units that could be developed in the underlying zoning, all of the existing units, we get what we call the maximum incentive units. So that's kind of additional units that could be developed based with the thing. So that was 1,013. And within the incentives that are provided, that would give an anticipated.
That's a one-time payment?
Correct. There's a one-time payment, and then there's additional payment to be received when the projects are actually.
And do you know what that amount is?
Not off the top of
It's
my head.
It's about $3,000?
3,000 per unit over what? So moving to the 40R district we're proposing, here from our previous presentation, you can see it's primarily residential and agricultural, and there is that business. Looking at the total acreage here, about 359 acres, we have proposed mixed use in part of the district, overlying the underlying business. I'm trying to keep businesses focused here. The substantially developed land is about 16.4 acres here, and developable land, while this is 50 acres, about 150 more acres. There's only about 50 acres of developable land here. I believe the typo on the underutilized land, that should be 48.1 acres. Existing zoned units, using calculations for 30,000 square feet for one single family home off developable acres, there's 48 potential units here, and there's existing 97 units. And looking at the 40R projected as of right densities, with the single family homes, 400 units, 3 family homes, 30 units, and multifamily 1,000 units. Removing the quote-unquote existing zone units from the maximum allowed as of by right 40R, which is at 1,000, just to 855 maximum incentive units. And this district would also qualify for a $600,000 payment. And I want to clarify with this, you would essentially get one payment if you approve both districts at the same time. If you approve them separately, it's up to DHCD to determine if they're close enough where you'd be eligible for $600,000. This time, we are under the assumption that if you approve both districts, you'd only have one $600,000. And $600,000 comes from how many units that maximum incentive units allows. 501 is the maximum $1,000 threshold. So either district on its own would put a maximum threshold for that initial $600,000.
Also, I'm right about this map. Most of those, not all those lots are privately owned.
Yes. So this overlay district will allow private developers to essentially use the 40R denser housing, or in the mixed use, bring in business, also be mixed use.
So someone owns a plot of land, they can wake up and say, hey, I want to put X number of units in here.
Yeah, they would have to get PA approval, which again would be the planning department built within our land, and then they would have to meet all the zoning design standards, zoning bylaws.
So go back to that 600. So if both zones were to move forward and would be approved, the town would receive a one-time payment of $600. If they moved forward with one zone, what would they be eligible to get?
It is still $600,000, as both districts we're proposing are over that maximum threshold of 5.
So if they came in with, so if they approved one, and then let's say 2 years later they wanted to do the second, would they still be eligible for any
They
additional?
would likely not be eligible for the $600,000 payment, the initial anticipated payment. It is HCD's discretion. The way it's written is if it's close to another district, it is likely not eligible for that initial payment.
Just to clarify that, if I may, they were approved at the same time, 600,000, 1.2. No?
So if it was to go forward and both were to be approved, $600,000 payment, but also it now launches the town over that 501 threshold. So it would be applicable for the second, just for the one. And then as permits are given, you get payments per building.
And Mr. Chair, just to clarify for the record and those listening, this is being done under a grant. There's nothing being proposed as a bylaw at any time right now. This is all discussion. This is to see what the town could do, if they wanted to do, if they wanted to pursue it. There's no bylaw being proposed right now regarding 40R or 40Y.
I'll pay John Ellis $10 to bring it up.
I just want anyone that's listening to not get the impression that this is something that's being proposed and is immediately going to town meeting.
I'll get the sacrificial microphone speech.
Okay.
And there's no proposed.
None of this time. We have prepared draft bylaws, which could be approved then. A developer could come by with contiguous developable acres, request a 40Y district be approved.
Tony had looked at a parcel of land that was wrapped up in probate as a potential, but with the probate wouldn't be applicable. It'd be too much backwards to be.
Now, would the guidelines of the 40Y fall within the station as well? I know it's separate from.
Yep. So 40Y does not have eligible location requirements anymore. It did when the starter homes were wrapped in 40R. In 2022, when they broke out 40Y as its own law, it no longer has a requirement, so that could be located.
So if someone had 100 acres and they came to the town and said, hey, I'd like to do a 40Y, they could approach the town to do a district of 40, but the town could also say no, correct?
Correct.
If it was approved as a zone.
The only place where I would love to see was the Ocean Spray something. Right now it's like 1977 Rocky-ish.
A lot of for sale sites.
Yeah, I think out of the two, I think we know where I think the town would probably prefer to see other. You know, I'm not speaking for the residents, I'm not speaking for the board, but I think just also the town would probably be more, maybe, I'm going to use the term accepting very loosely here, to the western district versus the eastern district. And as we know, Emmett had his opinion regarding the eastern district. He was firm on that. But I think, because of the fact that the western side is an area that the town is looking to revitalize.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
So I think they wrap up.
Good more. As this is a public hearing, we're going to open up the floor for comments or questions from anybody here in the audience. Please state your name and
Laura,
address.
reporting to my street, Hanson.
Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I'm just curious, that these units, are they rental or homeowner?
There would be option for either owning or rental.
And like, what are they running? What's the cost, like, per unit?
There'd be fair market value, and then there'd be affordable units. So with 40R, there'd be 20% affordable requirements on a development, none but the other 80% they charge fair market.
That's a big, also add that whole, disclaimer. Hypothetically, if this was approved, signed off by the town, all that kind of stuff.
I understand.
Market could change drastically or up and down, but that's the, this is all hypothetical discussion.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, tell
So
me.
to use Cushing Trails as a sort of a reference.
Recent, yeah, most recent.
Those are duplexes, and some of the market rates have gone for $600,000 to $750,000, and that's half a duplex. And the affordable units, I believe, are over the $200,000, which is realistic, probably more realistic to real world than $750,000 for half a
Down on
duplex.
Spring Street or off Spring Street. Yes.
What are the widths for streets? What are the height limits? What are the setback limits? And that's one of the questions I would like. What do you need now in the town of Hanson for width of the street? And how are you accessing? Like, let's just say you put 100 units on one of these back lots. Is there room for a street there? And what do you look into any of that at all? Like, 'cause that would just be giving carte blanche to some multi-million-dollar developer who leaves your town and they build, let's just say, 100 units times 10 all over town on all these lots. You guys get a payment of $600,000, hip hip hooray. In the first year, you're gonna have more kids go to school for over $600,000 than that. It's like literally cowboys versus the Indians, where the Indians got robbed of their land. This is basically that.
Well, it wouldn't be, if I could quote you, it wouldn't be all over town. It's a very concentric area.
Yeah, but it
That's being
doesn't matter,
proposed.
because when the density comes in, school's still overloaded, and I have another question.
Your question just went over like 5 different topics.
Because it should, because subdivision control went in when we overdeveloped before with the condos, and we had to build new schools. I believe now Hanson is on a water ban, am I correct? So where are we getting the water for these units? So you sell out your town for $600,000.
I don't think anybody said anything about selling
No,
out the
I know,
town.
but this is also 40 hours.
Ms. Troop, do you mind disclosing what board you're on in Halifax?
I'm on the planning board.
You're on the planning board in Halifax. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Well, that's fine.
We're not confrontational here, Mr.
40
I just
hours.
want to say,
No,
do you have any questions for these gentlemen about our particular 40R or 40Y?
So 40R under the state has MBTA under it, and now the state's coming around and trying to give you a different way to overdevelop. Unfortunately, all of us will have a water problem. Like, if you look at LA, all of this stuff is coming from the LA writers. So look at LA.
Great, we will, yeah, sure. So this 40R, particularly in the 40Y, actually started, like I said in the beginning, the onset of the public hearing. We started talking about this long before MBTA came along, and then all of a sudden our town planner's office had to get railroaded in another direction, pun intended, to address the MBTA zoning. So 40R and 40Y was something we've been kicking around for quite a while here in the town.
I know, I just don't think it's a smart decision
Yeah, thanks
because,
for your opinion, appreciate it.
well, I think your town thinks that. I mean, 1,000 units is basically what they've said no to for IA, so you guys should just cut it out. Save the town some time.
Not our full decision to do that. We can't just stop this procedure. It still needs to go through. That's the
From a
voting
corporation.
perspective of the town citizens.
But Hanson is a corporation that I already looked up, I don't know if you guys have, but corporation basically come in here and try to law so that they have multi-million-dollar corporations.
I would disagree. We asked them and invited them to come through, and through the procurement process, there were a few companies that were asked. If you want to follow up, I'm sure the town planner could give you the other companies that vetted this process. So, but do you have any other questions about 40R or 40Y?
Well, I would like to know, what are the setbacks and what are the street widths that have to be there for the law?
Tony?
It's all within the zoning bylaw for the district, right?
But none of that was up there, so what would that look like?
It hasn't been established yet.
In the draft, we do have, Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe about 10 building types. Each type has its own setback. It's difficult to answer that question face value without pointing to people.
Well, when we build a subdivision in the town right now, you have to have a certain amount of street width in order to go in. You have to have sidewalks, you have to have lights.
Are you asking what the town of Hanson setbacks are for zoning?
Well, what do you need for a street right now? How many feet of frontage do you need for a street?
And what type of street?
You have multiple different kinds of streets. In Halifax, we're straight up, we need 100.
Great.
So is there a street width that you guys propose?
I know the existing town is approximately 150 in most of the zoning districts. 40R, we may have down to 50 in some, but it's between 50 and 150.
All great questions, appreciate it, but they're kind of hypotheticals because it hasn't been established yet.
Right, well, I mean, I'm asking, you guys have a hypothetical thing going on, I'm asking questions about the hypothetical Disney World we're building. What talking about?
Any other questions?
No, well, there's a ton, but I don't think there's any answers.
All hypothetical.
You have a question about the zoning?
Oh, I just, no, it's like, well, it's
That's
just
the
like
question about the
MBTA.
zoning, like specifics, if there are any questions about the zoning that we could answer.
Well, usually you might need to know what your setbacks are.
Zoning existed, that's correct. It would be all presented during the design standards and things like that.
Well,
Yeah. Do we need to continue, Tony, until the 14th?
Yeah, you're looking for feedback?
Q&A?
So you're looking for feedback from the draft bylaw, see if there's any feedback. Again, it's just, this is just looking at it.
Right. So we'll continue until the 14th. You guys will be around that time. Entertain a motion to continue until 7/14. So we would have feedback in regards to the draft bylaw. So motion been made by Mr. Cohen. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Ellis. Any discussion in regards to that motion to continue to 7/14? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? 0. We will see you guys back here on the 14th. Thanks for the information. Appreciate your time. Sure. We have the High Street Park, working title High Street Park Committee that's coming
Mr.
up
Chair.
the next part of our agenda.
Main Street is next.
I did it. We're trying to get to that part. All right, now we're back. Main Street pedestrian improvements. Next on our agenda, Main Street pedestrian improvements. The project consists of replacing and/or construction of approximately 4,000 linear feet of sidewalks along Main Street from High Street to Elm Street. The design engineer will present revised plans addressing public and board comments. Top plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as you know, this is another grant project looking at designs for pedestrian improvements along the Main Street corridor from High to Elm. These plans have been worked on by Verdantis and addressed all the been trying to address all the comments by the board and the public. And Mr. DiNardo was here this evening with their latest revised plans and kind of go over what they've done to this point.
Hi, yes. So Eric DiNardo, Senior Project Manager with Verdantis, also a professional engineer. Just here to kind of relay some of the revisions that we did detailed from, I believe, our last.
Yes. Yeah.
So from what I gathered during the presentation to the public, ultimately it was more of a visual representation, detailing some specific line types that needed to be frozen during the plotting process. Please note, again, this is still schematic design phase, working through for essentially the details related to the overall intent of pedestrian improvements along this stretch. We also received similar comments from the public related to specifically the right of way and how that interferes with certain aspects of that section. In addition, one of the other notes that was brought up was more related to the alignment. Obviously, what we're trying to detail 36-inch sidewalk width. There are, varying in locations for fire hydrants, utility poles, things of that nature that I had to kind of work around, which are devised schematic design plans. In addition, one of the things that kind of hung up a lot of the public was a rating limit line, which is related to the actual 3D software that we developed the plans. That line has since been turned off. We're also providing tentative rating related to existing surface within this area, existing topography, to detail how we would remain ADA compliant related. It's my understanding, working with the town planner, Tony, that once we get more of a further sort of definitive on the 6 design plans, we would then facilitate what would be a rough order of magnitude cost estimate based on these revised plans detailing the costs. At such point, we would then pursue, once cleared by the town, we would then pursue the actual design plans, which would detail the further grade, further concrete curbing that you mentioned, which, going back to the conceptual plan, we did evaluate granite curbing, a little too expensive, but so we're trying to kind of work through that, as well as all ADA compliant locations, keeping all the existing curb cuts open within this whole stretch, so we're not interfering with that. In addition, what we would probably request is more of a definitive answer further improvement process. One of the things that has been going on since we've been in process with the conceptual design development is there seems to be further development along this section, so we just want to make sure we're hearing with anything related. If there's any further comments, what we tried to do here is, again, I provided a more refined aerial. It might also make it a little bit difficult to see some of the line types. I'm trying to make it as visually understanding of real world conditions that we do have along this stretch, but any further comments I can take care of. Line types that might be involved, schematic design plan, try all relative comments. The one thing that I will note is specific to station 2950 to 3400. That is on sheet C101. There will need to be some further sort of coordination on the town's effort. Well, along the southern portion of this sidewalk stretch, do interfere with the right-of-way line. However, this section is the commercial, so I think that there's some flexibility to us, the improvements related to access for what will be happening in this general area. So it's denoted in all the leaders that I have on there, just potential very minimal, specific to essentially where the alignment starts to curve upwards. We're overlaying the right. But we do have the flexibility to reduce that down so that we can maintain that 36-inch wide as well as not interfere with the right of way. But for now, given the type current occupancy in this area, I do think that there's flexibility.
And we're okay with the sidewalk distance, the measurement along Main Street where that curve is, that we're still within the 36? I think there was a pole that was there.
There is a pole there. So the pole, and granted, this is the initial existing conditions fly over by Trump. Okay. So, those geo-reference locations are interpretations of a bunch of data points. What we would probably suggest, and this would be further discussed, is in order to move forward, you most likely would need a professional land surveyor to develop. But in essence, it would follow similar alignment.
Where is that located?
So the Ocean Spray building is actually due west, so more to the left. It would basically be, if you go to the sheet of prior to this, Tony, it might kind of show it a little bit better. Yeah, so the match lines for this is actually right at that location. So you see where the corner of that building is, where it's kind of difficult to follow because the orientation switches so that we keep the arrows kind of as we go, so we can try to show as much as without being cumbersome with too many sheets that don't relate to one another. But essentially where that fire hydrant is on the bottom of this page, right that red right-of-way line. As soon as we get to the next page, you actually see where that corner of the building is right there.
The reason I'm asking, is there anywhere along that stretch where you want to develop it and all that? Is there any area to put some benches to make it more?
Yeah, I think that's something that we could definitely look into. The only concern related to that is specific your right-of-way line. Right? So most of the time you don't want to position a bench, right, and especially next to a parking lot.
Right.
So usually you want some sort of buffer, whether that's grass, landscape strip, or something like that. This grant was specific to the process, or the actual sidewalk installation. And it gets a little tight in that area if you try to do the 3-foot wide for the ADA compliant ramp, and then you try to put the bench, and then you're right up against the parking lot, kind of condensing that section.
I was just wondering if there was anything there, because on Route 14 that we're going to be doing over, it goes down by Quan.
Down McQuan Street.
McQuan Street. And it's right along the water, and then it's like 15, 20 feet, and that's all set aside for people that are walking maybe with the babies, or they want to come in, kids will come swim and stuff.
Tip project.
Yeah, there's definitely, that's a great point, and I do think that there is some flexibility on the north, maybe not the bottom or the southern where the right-of-way line is, but we would be able to potentially see.
Makes it just more relaxing the area instead of a hustle bustle type thing, slow traffic down, just things like that. It doesn't kind of cost.
Tony, can we reach out to fire to find out if there's any involvement that they want to have about increasing plugs that they have in that section? If they've
increasing fire hydrants, you mean?
Yeah, if they've had anything.
It wouldn't be part of this project, but
right. Just to find out if there's anything. I'd hate to find out we did this and the town moved forward, and then they wanted to have something in a certain area, and then we'd have to dig up the.
I could reach out.
If I'm not mistaken, Brockton Water is also.
Yeah, they have 2 water mains in the road, and Hanson has a water main.
If this is going to move forward, we should probably make sure that they're notified. Yeah. They might move the main out from that area, put it up,
The road,
shuts down.
road was milled and overlaid, so.
Yeah. Oh, it's in the middle of the road?
No, I'm saying the road, that road has been was milled and overlaid
Yeah.
last year from, Pembroke to,
Well, they have a gate at the top, up by Elm.
they might. I could see if they have any.
Storage. Just got to shut off their water.
Take out their water.
We'll give you water back if you give us some storage.
Do we know how much into the right of way we have that we have to be concerned about?
I can come up with that total square footage number for you.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, sounds fine.
So these plans just came in, so these are not the ones you had received in your email. So I will email everyone these plans and you blow them up and look at them. Yeah. Except Mr. Ellis, he's still going to be using his flip phone to.
Tony, if we can go west, 27 up towards the Main Street, Elm Street intersection area, this is where you were talking and referencing about grading, right?
Yes. Further considerations will be made.
On the southern side.
Yep. So we're actually not proposing anything over here.
Lots down.
Yep. The main, concern is more related to curb cuts, not interfering there while maintaining what we're within. So we do have profiles kind of show specific stationing specific to 250 feet. And then also with previous public comments, I marked down the residents in the area that had concern, and specifically showed that profile at their specific residence. So the overlay between right-of-way line and the proposed sidewalk. So, as design development kind of proceeds, one of the big things is more related to some of the grading. But we are showing the tentative grading here. Everything really does line up very well. There's one section a little tight that we might have to deal with further down the line. Something as simple as a locker might alleviate some.
For the resident.
Correct. Yes.
And again, this is hypothetical. If we have the plan for all this curving, we would need a wind money to be able to do it.
Correct. That's the idea of the rough order magnitude cost. And one of the things that we did during the initial phase is the first time we just said, all right, let's go from here to here, 4,000 feet on both sides. Then we looked at one side versus the other. And then, what it's developed is more of a all-encompassing related to pedestrian traffic. So one of the things that we tried to make sure that we did is we're not just proposing a sidewalk 10 without getting to the other side. Obviously, we want to promote pedestrian improvement along this stretch. So, it's not a sidewalk leading to nowhere. Well, I say that, but we do end because the scope ends, but essentially we're taking it as far as we can related to.
Can you go east one more time?
Are you looking to add crosswalk lights?
No crosswalk
Because it's pretty, a lot of people speed down that road, so I'm just afraid people crossing the road at night, there's going to be, could be a possible situation there, but.
Where's that first walk? Yeah, Justice Street. Coming down, especially site views coming on Main Street.
Yeah.
That bend in that road right there, that's horrible. By the time you get to the fire station, that's when you actually might start seeing around that. But the cross is pretty far down.
Because once the T gets out, there's going to be a lot of people trying to cross. And
everybody does.
Yeah.
It's like throwing a rock at a bee's nest.
Yes. I mean, ultimately, for the most part, we're not proposing crosswalks and get further down.
Okay.
Because this is where we're able to have sidewalks on both sides.
Okay.
Essentially from the beginning, which is station 0, all the way back up at High Street, if I'm orienting, Elm Street, sorry. But Elm Street, that's where we keep most of the sidewalk on both sides.
Okay.
Once we get closer down here is gate sidewalks, both on the curb cuts that are here. So like the commercial buildings that's shown into the whole right of this plan, we can't propose a crosswalk there, obviously due to the high traffic coming around this bend. We also can't propose a sidewalk continue because of we would be taking up the majority of how in and out specific to this.
Okay, because it's a lot of 18-wheelers that go out of that industrial park right there. Like, there's a scrap metal place, so.
Question? What's the width for the road there's now? I know on different highways and byways and stuff like that, there's always a width. So say Route 14, they talked about reducing the width of the road or do the road over just to slow down the traffic because that slows the trucks down on the residential area.
Yes, that is, so that was actually a comment that was made to the fog line. how the fog line corresponds. We're only taking the sidewalk from any changes to the existing road. We're basically taking from where your roadway is now and just 5 feet, give or take, obviously less than 5 feet, but bringing it from your edge closer beyond the limit of the road. There's no realignment associated with the existing road or the width related to it.
Question really, I didn't, yeah, maybe you did it in your mind, but not in my mind. What do they reduce it? If you reduce that road to have more sided road, do different things you wanted to do, when do you have to have a certain amount for a certain area? My question is to slow the traffic coming down through there, going across the railroad tracks and up the hill and so on. They supposedly put S, T, I think it is, it says that if they reduce that width, that's what slows down tractors. Didn't know if that's possible there or not.
I think we would probably have to talk just related to, not only, it's a valid question, but the other thing they have to keep in mind, specific engineering, is if you change the width related overall edge to edge, you now have to be concerned related to the stormwater has a crown within the roadway, and then there's a gutter size roadway to when the road starts to flow. This is beyond just the actual pedestrian improvement piece, but it is a bit.
Well, I don't want to go and change everything.
No, I understand.
It's just curious in my own mind, if you took, I don't know, 10 feet of the road and it condensed it a little bit, would it be better for sales if you want to develop that area for businesses and stuff like that, because of the traffic coming down through there, rather than having a big 18-wheeler dump truck coming down there, and now he doesn't have to slow down, but if he did slow him down, maybe it would be better. I don't know. Just a question.
No, I understand. I can definitely look into that and provide. I can't speak to that right now. But
I came down the end of April. I came down the Hill Hardware store. This guy came when I was coming back to my house. This guy decided to be in my lane. Only he was heading towards me instead of going the way he was supposed to go, and we hit head on.
Oh, really?
Oh, my truck. Oh, that's the thing that hurt the most.
Well, it is just your truck, but yes,
But I still get paid from it because of the traffic. All the airbags go off and all that, and it works good. The front of the truck blew apart, parts all over the place of the street. But it's that strap that you hit in there. I never knew anything about it until I had it.
Yeah, it's almost like a multifaceted issue, but the speed limit in that corner was 30.
I know it.
Well,
That's the point. People speed through there anyway.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
I've had to walk this stretch multiple times to do some of the work that we're doing, and even myself, like a vest on, it's a little sketchy in some, especially by the Ocean Spray building where that sidewalk is no more than 18 inches.
This was a little bit just coming down from the highway to Elm Street.
Yep.
We're coming down and by the fire station, and all I could do was like 3 seconds.
Brace for impact.
Hit the brakes and I'm blowing the horn. Close my eyes.
Idealistically, I think that the Cadillac version of this would be kind of like the tip on the corner, where you'd have separation of pedestrian and vehicle, because we have that grass strip in the middle. But I don't think it would ever be able to fit that down here from edge to edge.
This is a completely different animal.
Different concept, yeah.
This concept is to improve it so that if you're walking along that street, which there's no sidewalks, that you're not getting clipped while you're walking. Yeah, but improving with the sidewalks and whether it's crosswalks and signaled crosswalks, stuff like that. That's all part of it, because then the second phase of this is, once this is all done, is then to take this plan and go and get grant money to actually implement the plan.
Which that's where we do the implementation, which
Well, to get money to basically pay to do this. This is paying to the sidewalks design. The next phase would be money to actually get them built.
That's if you have the school department.
So, you haven't done it?
Great.
Just one.
No, absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
Final numbers sometime around July, you think? Final numbers?
I think that's fair, yeah.
Well, so well, this is a public hearing. I don't know if you want to check the public for any comments.
Just trying to find out what he needs from us.
Yeah, so the next meeting is July 14th.
Yeah.
I didn't know
We've
if,
already got a lot on there.
yeah, I didn't know if the board wanted, because it's being July, if you want to have one meeting in July, or if you want to have 2 meetings in July, and just move this to August.
I think it always makes sense.
So I mean, like, so our first meeting in August is the 11th of August?
That works.
With this being a public hearing, is there any questions or comments from the public? Yes, Ms. Root.
I was curious, who's paying?
It's money received through one of the one-stop grants.
Money through that chapter 90 money or anything?
Nope, one-stop grant is paying for this.
Places in complete streets.
Nope.
Nope. Anything else? Entertain a motion to continue until 8:11.
So,
Yeah, motion by Mr. Banal, second by Mr. Ellis. Any questions in regards to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Continued until 8:11. Appreciate your time and thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Have a great night.
This one's gonna be, yeah, you as well. Have a great night. Okay, fine. Nice. I'm sorry.
Because Monday is the deadline.
On our agenda, we have another public hearing for the High Street Park Committee. High Street Park Committee for land located on High Street, map 49, lots 1, 1A-1. Public hearing has been requested to be continued until July 14th, 2025.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Design engineer is in the process of revising the project plans to have peer review and public comments. Town planner.
I would send that one to August 11th as well. The designer has been less than stellar. Not my buddy. If he was my buddy, he'd be looking for a new job.
Chair would entertain a motion to continue until 8:11.
so
Motion been made by Mr. Banal. I'm going to take that from Mr. Cohen, seconded by Mr. Cohen. All those in favor signify, any discussion in regards to that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? And none. So we will continue that to 8:11. Thank you. I'm going to hand it over to the town planner as we have an introduction for the candidate for the planning board administrative assistant position.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we advertised for the administrative assistant position. As you know, Kim has moved on to the assessor's office. We had interviews this week, and we selected a candidate who is here today. Her name is Jaylee Murray. If you wouldn't mind having a seat, Jay.
Hi, how are you?
So Jay has a really good resume. She has experience with agendas and minutes. I'll let her tell you, the board, a little bit about herself. And I think that she'd be a great candidate for the position. So I'd like to have the board recommend her for the position. And then tomorrow evening, she could go to the select board. And with that,
Hi, Jay, how are you? The floor is yours.
So as you said, my name is Jade Murray. I, prior to this, worked as an administrative assistant in health services. So I worked under a program that provided services to folks on health. So a lot with the public, a lot with admin as well. I managed sort of a team of 12 social workers and leader, and we had 3 bigger meetings a week that I made the agenda, took all the notes, communicated with people back and forth about what was discussed and made sure that everyone did a lot of planning calendars and things like that. I really enjoy station and having things sort of fit in the box.
Any questions from the kids? Ms. Ellis?
How long have you been in working that position?
That position, I was there a little over 2 years. And prior to that, I was a care manager for adults, intellectual disabilities, managing with people.
Will you be able to handle these guys here?
I think so.
Well, you got a great reference with our outgoing administrative assistant. She's right downstairs from you. So it's a great office to work in. Any questions about Tony? He's been, he's really been a wind in the sails for the town of Hanson. So he's a great leader. You can suck up as much information out of him as you want. He's got a lot of having his back in that office. It's a busy office. So, any other questions for them?
yeah, the sad part is to keep training good ones to go to other offices.
Yeah. That's it. Please don't don't use it as a stepping stone. That's the third one. That goes to show how good of a leader. So, entertain a motion for the planning board's endorsement of Jade Murray to the position of administrative assistant the Town of Hanson Town Planning Office. Motion's been made by Justin, seconded by Mr. Benonato. All those, any question in regards to that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? We hope you're enjoying yourself here in the Town of Hanson. You got our blessing and welcome aboard.
And thanks for hanging around and seeing what it's all about.
Board business, Town Planner.
Okay, so the first thing we have on our board business is 4 invoices. The first is to the Whitman Hanson Express for $100, which covers the public hearing notice for the Meadowbrook. We have a second one that is for $55,000, and that is part of the earmark for the TIP project for the SUE. As a point of reference, tomorrow morning, the company will be out there doing the borings along that stretch of road, 12 inch by 12 inch boring using a vacuum truck to get the material out. They'll be able to determine the horizontal, vertical location of the water line and to also get an idea of what the condition of the water. They're going to begin it tomorrow.
Oh my God.
So we've put it out on social media.
I saw it as posting.
So yeah, they'll be beginning that tomorrow. Probably, I think they said they would take them about maybe 2 days to get it done. So there might be some minor disruption, but they'll have a police detail, obviously, along the road. Yeah. So the town received an earmark of $100,000. So that's where that money is coming from. The town accountant asked the planning department to sort of oversee the paying of invoices. We have a third invoice for $20,885.75. That's for the grant for the Starter Home District. And then we have the last one, which is $318.24, and that was for some office supplies for the board.
Don has a question.
Where are they going to start boring and ending?
So they're
Top of the hill.
They're going to begin. There's going to be 20 boring holes. So they'll begin at the intersection of Liberty and McQuon. And then they'll continue up McQuon all the way to almost the Pembroke line. So if you were to go out there...
So it's all in Hanson.
Yeah. So if you were to go out there today and you drove heading out towards Pembroke and you looked, without taking your eye out, keep one eye on the lane and look on the other side, you'll see white paint and you'll see it says TP 1, 2, 3. Okay. And as you go down, you'll see they're spaced about 300 feet apart, give or take. So.
Do they know where the main is by doing any?
Yes. Yes. So the first phase. Yeah. So the first phase was Feldman Geospatial as a survey company. So they went out there, and what they did is they would hook on to folks' water mains, and then they could track it to where the water main was. So they had a general location. And then when we had basically like our first 90-degree day, we took a walk from McQuon and Liberty all the way out to the Pembroke line and back. Myself, representatives from environmental partners were now known as Apex, the highway superintendent, and representatives from the Abington Rockland Water Commission. And so they also verified where the line was in depth. So the report runs depths average 5 feet. A little deeper in some places. It gets a little less when you get to the low spot as you're getting close to Pembroke where the road floods. You're just under 5 feet there, which makes sense because, I mean, if it was wet now, it was probably wet then, and they, their feet got wet when they were putting the water line in. So there's going to be like 2 borings there. So it's going to be 20. There'll be 20 borings. Then once we get the results of those borings, we'll pass that information along to Mass DOT and see what they want to do. Now, one thing we do know is that the line is from 1885, I believe, but it was cement lined in 1955. And there's actually records in their annual report in, I think it was Abington or Rockland, one of the two. They found an annual report that referenced that it had been cement lined way back then. But of course, there was a section that they replaced. It's cement lined, but they weren't sure if it was cement lined or if it was just a buildup. So it's like, how much of a cement lining went in and how much of it is still left.
When they did the water pressure tests from the residents out, do we have anybody along that corridor that's on Abington Rockland Water?
Yes, there's 40, I believe it's 45 residents along that stretch that are on the Abington Rockland water line. Then there was the Woodbridge
Terrace, yeah, up on the side.
Woodman Terrace. Yeah, Woodman at one time used to be on that line as well.
The whole street.
Yeah, but now it's not. I guess one time Woodman was a camp.
Yeah.
The records they show has that Woodman was a camp at some point, that they fed water to that, but they no longer do. But there's 45 residents that use the Abington Rockland.
Are they going to have rep there?
I'm sorry?
Are they going to have rep down there?
An email I received this morning is basically the boring company is going to go out there and do their work, and anyone is interested to, whether it's our side or their side, to go take a look while they're doing their. Yeah, could stand there and watch them.
Yeah, right.
Size of the mains,
It's a 16-inch main.
15-inch.
16.
16?
A little bit bigger. 16,
15, 18, 20,
somewhere, 16.
36.
Yes. 16-inch, 1-inch thick cast iron. Yeah.
It's the same like on Main Street too.
Yeah.
Goes to Brockton. There's two mains there.
Yeah, as far as Abington Rockland's concerned, which is understandable, it's not broke. We don't want to fix it. And it's not broke. We don't want to fix it. We don't have the money to fix it if we had to fix it. And when they say had to fix it, as in had to replace it from Pembroke all the way down.
Right.
So if Mass DOT wants to cover the cost, hey, they're all for it. Now, Mass DOT will cover the cost of where they're lowering the road,
Yeah.
but not anything beyond that.
Right.
And Mass DOT is basically covering their backside now because they don't want to spend all this money on putting in a brand new road, and then a year later, because of vibration of a roller or something, the pipe fails and now the road's destroyed, and now you have to rip up the entire road.
Yeah.
So now they're making, they're saying, no, this is why they're doing the SUE. I still, from my engineering, as I stand there, I just go, I still think there's an alternative here to lowering that crest of the road, but it's not.
It's water in the future.
Yeah, the crest that they're talking about, Crescent Street and Woodman Terrace are at the top of the crest, okay? There's no roads on either side of the crest. So yes, as you're coming from the center of town and you get to that curve, you have the crest. And if you're in Woodman Terrace looking towards the center of town, you can't see. But it's because there's a slope and there's vegetation.
Right.
So if you eliminated all of that till you could see to the straightaway,
Right.
Whether you lower that road a foot or 4 feet, unless you clear that out, you're still not going to be able to see looking down that road. Now, they're proposing a retaining wall and removing some of the vegetation, but still, to me, that would solve the problem versus lowering the road. But still, the Mass DOT would probably still say, well, we're still concerned that this is a line from 1885, which, makes sense. At some point, they are going to have to replace it, and if it does let go, it's probably going to.
It's going to do some damage.
Yeah, especially in the low spot where it's less than 5 feet, it'll probably blow out that road pretty good.
Yeah.
Bring a boat.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a 12-inch line blow out a city street and push the asphalt up, let alone a 60-inch line. So that's what they're doing there.
Questions, comments, or concerns from the board about endorsement for these invoices?
So the next item is
Tomorrow.
I filed for 6 grants under the One Stop program for a total of $877,500 is what we were requesting. The 6 grants are, one is for 0 West Washington Street. Now that we've done all the design work, it's a grant for disposition of that property. So I'm asking for about $30,000 for that. Hawks Avenue, the building closest to the road, looking for money under the underutilized buildings to try and get money to fix that building up.
One was like, the one closest to the road, is that the one that the state had their eyeball on? You're talking about that one or the,
Yeah, so if you get to the end of,
not the two in the back?
nope, if you get to the end of Hawks Ave, the very first one you run into.
Yeah, they wanted to agree.
Yeah. So then, $470,000 for 228 High Street, the building, the nurses' quarters, the one that's vacant right now. $80,000 to look at a municipal sewer study for Hanson.
Don't spend too much on that.
$197,000 for the pedestrian improvements on Main Street, but this time from High to Route 58. So we have plans from 2002 that show a complete design that never took place. So now I'm trying to get money to basically make it go somewhere.
It would be.
So then,
Sidewalk.
yeah, so then the last one.
That would join up with 58 all the way down to here.
Yeah.
Everything.
We're still getting grants even though we're not in compliance.
Well, we're in compliance till July 14th. So this could have been a wasted effort, but I have to go with, I have to give it a shot. And then the last one is $15,000 on Hawks Ave, and this would be for land acquisition. There's a strip that is between the railroad track and what the town owns, and it's 40 feet wide. And I'd like to see the town buy that from Hubble. So that way we could literally extend Hawks Ave along what would be our frontage, and then do something with that piece because it's in the commercial industrial zone, and figure something out with it. So those are the grants I went after. Next item was we're trying to promote the trails in Hanson. So we're having trail maps done, and this is in conjunction, working in conjunction with Dave Mansfield. He's sort of taking the lead. I'm just kind of giving him a hand.
Done a great job with it.
But we have 11 trails, so these are 11 different brochures for 11 different trails. These are not the final. Those are being completed this week. And we received $3,000 in grant money from the South Shore Chamber, through the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, to pay for it. It's over by a little bit, but that's being paid for. But the $3,000 is being paid for.
We included anything in there for the High Street?
Bonnie, yeah, we have.
Hanson definitely needs more trails.
We have Bonnie Hill Trail. We have Bonnie Hill Trail, the Town Forest, Webster Billings, Alton J. Smith Reserve, Indian Crossway, Smith Nowazowski, Poor Meadow, Rocky Run, Philip Clemens, The Sleeper, and Burridge. So I'll just have these here if you want to just peruse through them. So what we'll do with these is we're going to have a run of, I think it's 1,000 per, and then we'll just distribute them. We'll put them online, and then basically going to use that to promote the trails and hopefully maybe promote some economic development as an ancillary of the trails. If we can get people to come in for the trails, we might promote going to other businesses.
Was there anything in there about putting a trolley around on that?
Nope. But I understand the one from what was the place in Carver there?
Oh,
Edaville. Yeah, Edaville Railroad. Yeah. There was a couple of ZBA approvals that we were notified of. One was for 430 Liberty Street, which was the Planet Fitness. That was approved by the zoning board. And was also an approval of 604 County Road, which is the dentist's office.
Yeah.
They did a revised, they had to change their plan due to an error. So that was approved. I spoke with our IT director, and
on board. Nice.
He is, yes. And
Awesome.
he has transferred one of the Zoom licenses to planning.
Perfect.
So now we can actually have people on Zoom longer than 40 minutes at a time.
Awesome.
So basically, like the next meeting, if the consultants, who most of them live in the North Shore, we could just have them Zoom in versus actually being here.
Yeah, come down.
Yeah.
Canada?
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much all I have for the town planner update.
Tony, do you know, going back to the open space review from Krista and Julia, they spoke about conditional approval allows the town to participate in the DCS grant rounds for May of 2035. Are those DCS grant rounds, Holden to MBT?
Don't know. I'm not sure.
Because there are some grants that are above and away.
Now, I'm sure that you've probably seen in the news that Duxbury
Yeah.
accepted the MBTA, and so did Milton. Just the other day, Milton accepted the MBTA. So it's out there.
And there goes the financiers for the lawsuit.
So anyway, that's all I have. Next meeting is July 14th. And again, I don't know if the board just wants to have one meeting in July, or if you want to wait till July 14th to make that
Does anybody
decision.
have any questions for the town planner with town planner's update? Next tentative schedule, we've already put some stuff onto that. It would be 17. What's the flavor of the board? You know, pending if we don't have something that comes in that's time critical. Do you want to do one meeting in July, one meeting in August?
I mean, you don't have to decide tonight,
Motion if you don't
but
have any meeting in which you need to.
Well, we have one on the 14th. So we could do tonight, we could do.
But many people go on
We
vacation.
could do 7/14.
Generally, that's what we're doing every year.
Yeah, 7/14. So we got 7/14 and then,
In December too.
yeah, so you'd have 7/14 and 7/28, and then you'd have August 11th and August 25th. So, I mean, you're going to meet July 14th. I don't know if the board wanted to decide tonight, if whether you want to have one meeting in July, or you can decide that on the 14th.
You can post a meeting anytime.
Right.
why don't we do, so, because it helps you out, Tony, especially if you've got an administrative assistant to be able to. Entertain a motion for a meeting for 7/14 and 8/25. It would be 2 summer meetings. Obviously, with the disclosure that the town planner needs us to come in and for something, that would be called up. So entertain a motion for our tentative meetings, for our meetings to be 7/14 and 8/25, 6:30 PM, same bad time, same bad channel. I don't even want to go and take it. So what's the will of the board?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Mr. Benonato.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Cohen. Any discussion in regards to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So we'll do 7/14. No, it's 5-0. I'm dealing with. So we got meetings for 7/14 and 8/25. That way you can use some time to plan, Tony. And yeah, if you need anything, obviously just call up the board and we'll do a special.
Yeah, and you know, if you could even do a Zoom.
No,
So,
you can do it out of the license.
if you had to.
Do you know if the new IT has maintained all the same type logins for the town emails and all of this?
As far as I know, he's sort of going through everything.
Perfect.
But he's been asking who has emails, and I explained that the planning department had.
Yeah, we just called them.
That the planning board had an email.
Does anybody else have anything for good of the order?
Motion.
Once again, Justin, thank you for putting your name forward. It was very nice to see the results of the election. Nice to see you down there. It was nice that we didn't have any gab, so I appreciate that.
no problem.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Great. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Mr. Benonato. Second by Mr. Ellis. Any discussion in regards to adjournment? Hearing none? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It is 8:30. We are adjourned.